Welcome to my narrative of deceitful tales. Upon waking from surgery, I discovered Hector, my business partner, in the place where my spouse should have been. He extended his phone towards me and stated, "Remain composed, listen. 4 months ago, Camilla emptied all accounts of our Cayman Island holdings in a 3-hour span, and I've secured a prosecutor to aid us in apprehending her." This revelation marks the start of a series of events that led to her realization of the devastation she had wrought due to money she would never be able to enjoy. The ensuing events include an investigation, federal charges, and the moment she acknowledged her destruction of her entire life for funds she could not spend. All these events can be traced back to a routine gallbladder surgery, which Camilla transformed into the largest blunder of her criminal career. Retracing 6 months, we have been married for 14 years. I managed a medical equipment distribution company generating approximately $8 million annually in revenue. Camilla was a successful pharmaceutical representative, earning decent income but far less than the business's earnings. We lived comfortably. Resided in Westchester County with privately educated children, maintaining an upper-middle-class lifestyle. My accountant established offshore accounts years prior to our relationship, serving as legal tax structures for safeguarding business funds and facilitating international transactions. Although not illegal, their complexity rendered them challenging to explain fully to Camilla. She was aware of their existence, but unaware of the specific amounts and access methods, marking my first error. The second blunder lay in overlooking her observations when she began hinting that I appeared unusual. Beginning last January, I started forgetting things frequently, misplacing keys and so forth, to which she would remark, "Once more, dear, this is the 3rd time this week." Similarly, I'd err on dinner reservations, causing her concern. However, it wasn't as if I was losing my memory more than usual. As the head of a rapidly expanding company, I was handling distribution agreements spanning 3 states involving FDA compliance matters and associated paperwork. Occasionally, minor details would slip my mind, a common occurrence for most people, but Camilla began meticulously documenting these instances. It wasn't until much later that I realized she was maintaining a comprehensive journal. Every slight lapse of attention, every request to repeat information due to distraction, and each occasion when I couldn't quickly recall a conversation we'd had 3 weeks earlier, she was compiling evidence. In March, she arranged a routine health checkup for me, insisting out of concern. Despite being in good health at 46 with no significant health issues, I agreed as her worries seemed sincere and avoiding the argument seemed easier. The doctor, not my regular practitioner but someone Camilla had selected, performed some basic cognitive tests including memory recall, pattern recognition, and simple problem-solving tasks. I performed well. My test results are not flawless, yet still acceptable for someone of my age and stress level. Camilla suggested consulting a neurologist to ensure thoroughness, though this should have served as a warning sign. Over the years, I had learned that accommodating a spouse's health concerns could maintain harmony. Assuming we would visit a specialist, confirm my well-being, and alleviate her worry, I was proven wrong. The neurologist she scheduled, Dr. Francis Delacroix, based in Stamford's medical building, spent an hour and a half testing me extensively, memory tasks, coordination checks, and questionnaires about daily routines and any observed changes. In the end, he summoned us and stated, "I detect some signs that require observation, though nothing conclusive as of now. Given your age and family history, these findings are somewhat unexpected." 1. Proposed setting up an initial evaluation and subsequent checks every 3 months. The look on Camilla's face spoke volumes, mostly dismay, but I felt more annoyed. It was evident he was trying to dodge responsibility by suggesting regular assessments instead of providing Mia with a clear all clear, yet the ominous early signs lingered in the room like smoke. Nevertheless, Camilla organized the follow-ups before we even left the premises. Over the next 2 months, things took a turn for the worse. Camilla subtly informed our acquaintances about my health predicament, feigning concern as if she were bravely dealing with a demanding situation. "He's facing some health hurdles. We're collaborating with specialists." After a meeting in May, Hector approached me privately and inquired about the circumstances. Apparently, Camilla had informed him of your supposed memory troubles. "You appear perfectly fine to me, buddy." I dismissed it with a laugh. She seems unconcerned, yet I am tense due to contract negotiations at work. But Hector appeared doubtful not of me but the situation. That conversation potentially spared my life. The operation was slated for early July. A typical gallbladder extraction, a laparoscopic process, which might keep me in hospital for a day or 2 at most. I've been experiencing discomfort for months, eventually got it examined, and the surgeon suggested removal as the best course of action. Just before the surgery, Camilla asked me to sign some documents. Common medical power of attorney forms, she clarified, pushing them towards our kitchen counter. In case anesthesia affects me longer than anticipated or complications arise, she would be authorized to make medical decisions. This is where I utterly faltered. My mind was engrossed in work delegation matters, ensuring Hector could manage everything during my recovery. Reviewed the paperwork, noticed terms like medical decisions and temporary authorization, and signed them off. I overlooked the part about financial powers. I failed to notice that the power of attorney she'd prepared was not limited to medical decisions, but also granted access to bank accounts, investment portfolios, and foreign assets for managing family resources during the principal's incapacity. I didn't even spot the letter from Dr. Delacroix, dated 2 weeks prior, stating his professional opinion that I was exhibiting progressive cognitive decline consistent with early-stage dementia, and recommending clear financial oversight structures due to the patient's decreased capacity for complex decision-making. I signed everything on a Tuesday evening while dealing with an email regarding a shipment delay in Baltimore. The surgery took place Thursday morning, without any complications. After waking up from the operation around 2 p.m., I felt drowsy but okay. I observed Hector seated by my bedside in a chair and a woman dressed in a Navy uniform standing near the window, engrossed in her phone. "Where's Camilla?" I inquired, my throat parched from the intubation. Hector moved closer, his face grave in an unusual manner. "She isn't arriving, and you must maintain composure while I disclose something important." The woman at the window turned to face me. "Mr. Brennan, I am Assistant U.S. Attorney Monica Reeves. Your business partner contacted my department yesterday with troubling information regarding your wife's recent actions. We require answers from you about your financial accounts." Confused and disoriented by the anesthesia, none of this seemed rational. Hector displayed a record of bank transfers on his tablet. The 3 accounts in the Cayman Islands, containing $2.3 million as business reserves and profit distributions I had been storing offshore for future repatriation under advantageous tax conditions, were completely emptied. At 11:47 a.m., every account showed an authorization for transfer while I was undergoing surgery. Hector whispered she used the power of attorney. She contacted the institutional client services of the bank, gave them your account numbers and legal documents proving her authority due to your medical incapacity, then transferred it all to an account in her name alone. I stood there, staring at the screen as the figures didn't immediately register. $2.3 million. Yes, Hector confirmed, it was all gone before you even began recovery. Rosa Reeves sat down in the other chair. "Mr. Brennan," they asked, "did you allow your wife to access these accounts?" "No, definitely not. Were you aware she had a power of attorney with financial provisions? You had signed a medical power of attorney for the surgery in case something went wrong." She and Hector exchanged a look. "The document you signed included broad financial powers. It referred to a medical evaluation by Dr. In response to Francis Delacroix proclaiming reduced mental capacity, it was at this moment my thoughts became crystal clear. The anesthesia haze dissipated instantly. I declared it was false. That assessment was fabricated. I encountered Delacroix on 2 occasions. He ran tests and assured everything was normal. He suggested there were early signs and close monitoring was needed, as Hector gently corrected. I recall this detail. Camilla had mentioned it too. However, Delacroix never diagnosed me with any condition. Neither did he assert a diminished capacity, dementia, or similar claims as stated in the document. Rosa Reeves unfolded a file. "We must authenticate this information, because if your wife obtained financial power of attorney utilizing falsified medical records, we're considering federal wire fraud allegations. The accounts are situated offshore, which means she breached international banking systems under false pretenses." The ensuing 3 hours were a whirlwind of phone calls and statements. The hospital's legal team intervened. Yesterday, Hector's lawyer was contacted upon discovery of Camilla's plans. He arrived and began working with the prosecutor's office. A significant turn occurred when they reached out to Dr. Delacroix's office. Initially, his nurse confirmed that I had been a patient and that he had monitored me for cognitive issues. However, when AUSA Reeves inquired about the specific letter attached to the power of attorney documents, diagnosing progressive dementia, there was a lengthy pause on the phone. The response was, "Dr. Delacroix never writes formal diagnosis letters without obtaining patient consent first." The nurse then promised to retrieve the file. After another extended wait, she revealed 2 visits in March and April. These were routine neurological examinations with normal results and a suggestion for stress management. There was no dementia or cognitive decline diagnosis found in the file, and there was undeniably no June 20 letter in their system. You played the call over speaker. The document on your office letterhead with Dr. Delacroix's signature and license number suggesting a patient has progressive cognitive decline not from your office? Definitely not. Using the doctor's credentials in such a fraudulent manner is unacceptable. We urgently require this document. It arrived shortly. Within 10 minutes, Dr. Delacroix himself called back. He confirmed it was not his signature. He pointed out the capital D was incorrect, and he does not abbreviate his license number that way. Someone forged this. The room fell silent. Your lawyer spoke up first. So we have proof that Mrs. Brennan utilized a falsified medical document to acquire financial power of attorney, which she then used to transfer $2.3 million from offshore accounts while her husband was incapacitated during surgery. That's wire fraud, identity theft, and potentially RICO predicate acts if we can prove a pattern, AUSA Reeves stated. She had been typing on her phone when I summoned forensic document analysts and financial crimes investigators. Hector looked at me, questioning the length of her planning. For the following month, as the investigation unfolded, this question echoed in my mind. The answer revealed itself to be a minimum of 2 years. The FBI's forensic accounting unit followed Camilla's preparations with meticulous accuracy. Her laptop search history, obtained through a warrant, showed numerous queries about offshore account access, power of attorney laws, medical capacity assessments, and international wire transfer procedures dating back to 2022. She had honed her skills on smaller scams initially. In 2021, she managed to persuade her elderly aunt that she was suffering from memory loss and needed assistance with managing finances. Camilla acquired power of attorney and systematically withdrew $47,000 from the woman's savings account without her relatives noticing initially. She later repaid it, stating it was a misinterpretation of loan conditions. No legal actions were taken then. This incident served as her proof of concept. The Dr. Delacroix forgery was intricate. Camilla found a document forger in Atlantic City who specialized in creating authentic-looking medical and legal paperwork for immigration cases, who had been under FBI surveillance for months without a solid case being built. Emails from Camilla recovered from a supposedly deleted folder supplied the necessary evidence. She paid $3,500 to the forger for recreating the letterhead and forging the signature on the document. She provided him with copies of her genuine medical records from Dr. Delacroix's office, which she had obtained by calling and claiming a need for second opinion consultation. The forgery was convincing. The signature, though convincing to the bank's verification team, was exposed as traced or digitally recreated by forensic examiners. The handwriting analysis confirmed this. The letterhead displayed printer artifacts inconsistent with the doctor's office equipment. Additionally, the medical license number format differed from how Dr. Delacroix's actual office usually presented it. Camilla made another significant mistake. She used her personal cell phone to reach the forger. She was careful about many things, but she underestimated the persistence of deleted emails and cleared call logs. By mid-August, the federal case was sealed with evidence of wire fraud, identity theft for falsified medical credentials, and conspiracy to commit fraud due to her collaboration with the document forger. The man from Atlantic City swiftly confessed, giving comprehensive details about the motives behind her requests. The state's charges, theft, forgery, elder abuse over her actions towards her aunt, paled in comparison to the potential federal repercussions. My legal counsel informed me she faced 15 to 20 years. However, what truly shattered her was her inability to access the funds she had stolen. The FBI had frozen the account to which she had transferred the money within mere days of the theft. This included asset seizure warrants, global banking cooperation agreements, and the entire federal apparatus designed to combat such criminal activities. Despite successfully stealing $2.3 million, she maintained control over it for only 3 days. The encounter took place in a federal court in Manhattan in September. Camilla had been arrested 6 weeks prior, secured bail through her parents, and was living in their house in Connecticut as she awaited trial. Her attorney advised her to avoid contacting me. In disregard of my advice, she had disregarded approximately 100 times by making calls and sending messages from different friends' phones through blocked numbers. I had chosen to disregard all these instances. The hearing was a typical pre-trial conference, but the prosecutors had prepared something unusual. They aimed to expose the entirety of Camilla's planning. They had summoned records that were unknown to me as well. The courtroom was compact, adorned with wooden panels and fluorescent lights that made everything look washed out and institutional. Sitting at the defense table along with her attorney, a smartly dressed man from an elite law firm her parents had hired, Camilla appeared thinner than I recalled. Upon my entry accompanied by Hector, I seated myself behind the prosecution table. As she turned to gaze at me, Camilla's expression was unreadable, perhaps a mix of anger or shock at my presence. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Weinstein, entered, and we all stood up. "This is U.S. v. Camilla Brennan case 23 CR 5847. Asa Reeves rose, stating, "We are handling pre-trial motions and evidence evaluation." Addressing the judge, she said, "The government intends to introduce evidence demonstrating the extent and duration of the defendant's fraudulent scheme. Proceed." They began with a timeline, presenting searches from 2022, a simulated exercise with her aunt in 2021, and systematic documentation of what was portrayed as my deteriorating mental state throughout the spring. A leather-bound journal, discovered during a vehicle search following arrest, was displayed, filled with her handwriting, dates, times, and incidents. March 3, where he forgot the grocery store parking spot. March 7, when he inquired twice about his meeting time. March 15, when he couldn't recall our neighbors' names. These entries were cross-referenced with my actual calendar and activities on those days. However, on March 3, I parked in a different lot than usual because the main lot was full, and I knew exactly where my vehicle was. 7th March, while engaged in a conference call, she inquired about my schedule and mentioned, "Remind me later," which was distinct from forgetfulness. She had been fabricating signs of deteriorating cognition without basis. During the court proceedings, this segment prompted Camilla's visible reaction. Her complexion paled, as Hector had grown suspicious in June following a conversation about my memory concerns and noticed inconsistencies in Camilla's entire account. I began to observe closely. 3 days before the surgery, he had been at our house for a business meeting. Camilla stepped out to answer a call in the kitchen. After completing his review of contracts, Hector approached the kitchen to ask about coffee. He overheard her conversation. He advised someone, suggesting a diagnosis with progressive cognitive decline, but avoiding specifics to prevent further clinical tests. He recommended financial oversight instead. The next day, Hector recorded their 2-minute phone conversation regarding the fabricated letter with the document man, where Camilla detailed the specific language needed, timing it to correspond with her surgery when she would be most susceptible. Playing this recording in federal court marked the point where she realized the game was up. Her lawyer objected and argued about the illegality of the recording and its inadmissibility. However, the judge deemed Hector a lawful presence within the home where the conversation took place and harbored reasonable suspicions of criminal activity. As a result, the tape was admitted as evidence. Camilla covered her face, and the judge looked at her for an extended period. "Ms. Brennan," he said, "I have assessed the government's proof. This appears to be a carefully orchestrated long-term plot to defraud your husband by means of falsified medical documents and misuse of power of attorney. Do you comprehend the gravity of these allegations?" Her lawyer responded. "Affirmative, Your Honor. We're ready to deliberate over the plea arrangement." The judge perused the case file. The trial is scheduled for January 15. Bail constraints continue to apply. The defendant is prohibited from reaching out to Mr. Brennan or any witnesses involved in this case. We stand dismissed. The plea bargain was struck in November. Camilla's attorney negotiated it to 7 years of federal prison, full reimbursement for legal expenses and damages, and assistance in the prosecution of the document forger. She would also have to admit guilt to the state elder abuse charges concerning her aunt, albeit those would be served concurrently. 7 years, at least 5 before parole eligibility, her parents pleaded with me to write a letter to the judge asking for leniency. I refused, feeling it was inappropriate to interfere with sentencing. The hearing took place in December. Camilla read a prepared statement about her financial distress and poor decisions, expressing regret. I found her words insincere. Judge Weinstein shared my skepticism. "Ms. Brennan, this wasn't a crime born out of impulse or necessity. It was systematic exploitation of your spouse, involving identity theft, forgery, and the strategic abuse of his temporary health weakness. You had previously honed your skills on an elderly relative before targeting your husband. This behavior indicates sociopathy rather than stress. The verdict was as outlined in the plea agreement. Sentence: 7 years in a federal correctional facility with restitution payments to start immediately. Camilla gave me one last glance as she was released. I couldn't discern her thoughts. Hector and I stepped out of the courthouse into the chilly December air. "You all right?" he queried, coping. Divorce concluded in January, uncontested due to her incarceration. I obtained full custody of the children and all assets. Despite my ex-wife retaining some visitation rights with the children, I consented due to the kids not needing to lose their grandparents over her criminal actions. The business bounced back. Offshore accounts were thawed and returned, and I reorganized ownership structures while implementing multiple checks for any financial alterations. I never signed another document without thoroughly reading every word. Reflecting on it now, what stands out is how close she came to escaping punishment. If Hector hadn't been suspicious, if he hadn't recorded that phone call, if the FBI hadn't been monitoring the forger, she may have successfully stolen everything and vanished before anyone could halt the transfers. The entire plan depended on me being unconscious during surgery for a few hours, just long enough for her to execute her actions and flee. For 2 years, she had meticulously plotted to seize a 3-hour opportunity, but her scheme unraveled due to 3 crucial errors: underestimating the persistence of deleted emails, overlooking the scrutiny of forged signatures, and assuming my business partner would remain oblivious to her fabricated tale about my deteriorating mental health. Consequently, her life crumbled. The children occasionally inquire about her. Though they are old enough to grasp her wrongdoing, they still hold affection for their mother. I refrain from disparaging her to them, as it is not my place, but when they reach maturity and seek the truth, I will disclose. Your mother was not a hapless victim of circumstances. She was the mastermind behind a fraudulent scheme, intent on undermining my proficiency, pilfering my assets, and leaving me penniless and stigmatized as incompetent. She didn't succeed because she underestimated those who truly mattered in my life, and I safeguard a recording from Hector, the one where her voice is heard discussing the fake letter over the phone. This memento serves as a reminder of the deceit I experienced at the hands of someone I believed implicitly trustworthy. As she orchestrated my incapacitation for personal gain, it exposed her true intentions. Welcome to the cheating story lab. Betrayal isn't always about who they're with, but rather, who they transform into when you can no longer hinder their plans.